I have a scar. I have several. Now who remembers how you got that scar? Like you look at it and you're like, oh man, that's when I tripped on the sidewalk and fell, or that's when I fell off the tree and busted my head. Right? Almost everybody here, right? So I'll tell you a story about a scar that I have, physical scar. So it's I don't if you ever look closely at my face, I have a scar above my right eye here, and I was playing backyard football. No coincidence at all. I was playing backyard football, and I mean, me and my brothers, we went hard. Like it was full tackle, like no nothing. Like they didn't give me. And whoever knows my brothers, probably none of you here. They're big guys, and they would never take it easy on me, never take it lightly. And so we were playing in my backyard. I have like a 5-acre backyard back at home in Georgia, and we're playing, and we're going, and I'm running and running, and I collide with my brother. Now, my brother's head is like this big, and I'm pretty small. I mean, I'm like, I don't know, probably 13, 14, and I was like, my head's like this small. So this, you could probably tell who won that fight. And so I hit, and as soon as, like, I lost all feeling in my face. And my eye, my eye was, poking out of my face. And so, I had a big gash, and it was funny, I wasn't, crying or anything. I was like, I got up, and I was like, ouch, my head hurts. And, my brother, gave me the wide-eyed, biggest look I've ever seen. And I was like, what's wrong? And he's like, dude, you need to go to the hospital now. And I was like, I'm fine. He's like, no, go inside and go tell mom you need to go to the hospital. It's like, run inside. My mom and I'm like, hey mom, Steven says that I'm supposed to go to the hospital. And my mom she just drops. And she's like, honey. And I'm like, what? I still haven't even checked out in the mirror, what's happening. And my dad comes running out. He's like, get in the car now, let's go. And I still don't know what's wrong because I feel fine. And then the dude's like, dude, you have a 6-inch gash in your head. And I was like, oh. And so fast forward, I just don't feel pain. And fast forward, I got all the stitches, and now I have this big scar on my right eye. Now, who here has not a physical scar, but emotionally, just something that's happened in your life that you can look back and be like, man, that was a tough time. Man, I really needed Jesus in that time. Mm-hmm. Or I needed my mom in that time. Or I needed my dad. Or I needed my sister. Whoever it may be. Majority of us in this room have a other kind of scar, physical, emotional, mental, whatever it may be. Now I'm gonna tell you a part of my emotional and mentally and physically scar story, and it's a very long story. And after this, if you guys want to get together and talk to me about it, you can, and I'd be happy to really share it with you. But I really just felt on my heart this whole week to tell it to you guys. So a lot of you know me from Hope Chapel. Jason, he knows me from Hope Chapel days, and they know that I'm adopted. And being an adopted kid, and I know some of you kids in here are adopted too as well, and you guys can kind of sympathize and you understand this. I was adopted when I was 5 years old, in a white family, but the 5 years leading up to that were horrible years. A little background of my birth family. My dad, obviously he wasn't in the picture. My dad was a hitman. Anybody here know what a hitman is? If you're in a gang, you know what a hitman is. You know that, right? So he gets hired to kill people. So that's what my dad was. So he was never around. He was always doing hits for his gang. And so he wasn't even part of his life. He didn't even want me. So that's a scar right there that I have. My dad didn't want me, okay? My mom, she was a drug addict. She had 16 other kids, all girls, and she was just, all she could get by with life was drugs. That was her way of doing everything. She couldn't get up without taking a hit of weed. She couldn't get up and without smoking dope or whatever it might be. It had to be drugs for her. And so, as you can imagine, you can see that she obviously left the kids out of it. So she didn't care about her kids. She cared about herself, and she cared about her health and whatever it may be that she was doing, whatever boyfriend that she had. And so, I didn't have a mom. And keep in mind, I had 16 sisters. Obviously, they all weren't born at the same time, but so I had, at the time, I probably had like 7 sisters already. But I was just born, and I was just this kid. So then, she tries to. She's like, I love you, and I want to be with you, and I want you to be part of the family. I love you, all this other stuff. Obviously, I'm not gonna buy it. I was a kid, so I don't really understand what that meant. But then, I wake up one day. This is like I'm 2. I wake up one day, and I'm in a foster care system, and I'm questioning. Obviously, you're a kid. You don't really question these things. But I wake up and I'm in a foster care system. I wake up again the next morning and I'm in a relative's house. I wake up again and I'm back in my mom's house. Well, at the age of 4 years old, I didn't wake up in a house. I didn't wake up in a relative's house. I woke up in a dumpster. I woke up and I was 4 years old and I was surrounded by trash. I was surrounded by things, just the most disgusting things you'd ever know of. I wake up in a dumpster. Now who does that? I don't know. But, so then I get found by the police or whatever, and unidentifiable, I get placed in another foster care system. And fast forward, I get my parents now, I get adopted by my parents. And then, so now I'm adopted. Oh, happily ever after, you're saved from whatever. No, that's not quite it. Me and my adopted mom now do not have a relationship. We barely have a relationship. It's come a long way, but at one point in time, I could not be in the same room with my mom because at first, the first thing that she's ever said to me was like, I didn't sign up for this. I don't know how to raise a kid that's not my own. I don't know how to love a kid that's not my own. And so for the next 10 years of my life, from 5 to 15 years old, I grew up in a house that I thought loved me. I thought, they would take care of me. I thought, they would do everything for me because the 5 years before that, I'm being thrown in dumpsters. I'm being abused by my uncles and aunts and whoever might be. And so I'm like, well, what am I, this is worse than it was before. Now I just got placed in a home that doesn't love me. And so I'm sitting here thinking I'm 15 years old. I'm sitting here thinking dude, who even loves me? Who even cares about me? Who would go the extra mile and do something for me? And I'm sitting here thinking, and I got arrested when I was 15 years old, not for doing drugs, not for doing anything. I was just joyriding. Anybody here know what joyriding is? Just leisurely taking a car and just whipping out there, just doing my thing because I wanted to grow up. I wanted my freedom. I loved freedom, And so I was trying to rush my freedom, and so the car there was a headlight that busted, and it got pulled over, and went through that whole ordeal, spent a week in jail, and I'm sitting there and thinking, well, this is my last straw, here goes, and then people were looking at me well, Isaiah's gonna start this, start the trend like his dad, he's gonna, because most people in jails, they get acquainted with gangs and drugs and all that other stuff. And I sat in jail, I sat in my little corner, and I was I looked around, and there's other 14, 15-year-old kids. I'm like, man, what is this? This is not life. What is going on? I shouldn't be sitting here. I shouldn't be, I want to go do something with my life. And so I'm just sitting there, I get out after a week, and my dad, he picks me up. My parents just went to the beach. My dad didn't even bail me out. He just said, you're gonna stay here, we're gonna go take a beach trip. And I was like, well, thanks. And it was over Christmas, so I didn't even get to spend Christmas with my parents either. And so I'm sitting there, and I'm like, dude, I don't want this to be my life. I really don't. I don't want to follow after my dad. I don't want to go kill people. One day I want to have a family. One day I want to grow up and be part of the family. And so all my life, the scars and the emotional feelings that I've had have been, I haven't been loved. I haven't been cared for. I haven't been, I've had a lot of anger built up. I've had a lot of just frustration and jealousy and hate. you know, and I really don't like the word hate because I don't like to hate anybody. But deep down inside, man, I hate so many different people. I could go back and list so many different people that I could be like, man, I don't ever want to speak to him. I don't ever want to talk to him. Like, I want to strangle him, you know? And one of those people is my birth dad, you know? Just yesterday, I blocked him because he kept calling me and he's like, man, I want to, come be my son again. And I was like, what did you do to deserve to be, to have a son? Because you didn't do that, how many years ago? 15 years ago. You didn't do that when I needed you. So why now? And so I hate him for that. I do, And man, this light is killing me. So anyway, it's like blinding me. And so I'm sitting there and, I had to block his number. And then 4 hours later, he makes a whole new Facebook account to follow me. And I'm like, dude, did you not get the message? I don't want to talk to you right now. I don't. And so all my life I've had these scars and these mental, these frustrations. And so the definition of a scar, according to Google Dictionary, it says a mark left on the skin or within body tissue where a wound, burn, or sore has not healed completely and fibrous connective tissue has developed. So I'm trying really hard to try to make this as short as possible, but anyway, so in life, people are inflicted with scars. Just worldly things. You're inflicted with scars. Everyone has a story. Everyone does. People might come up to you and be like, dude, I don't have a story. I don't know what to give to the world. You have a story. Everybody will have one at some point in their life. A story, a testimony, where you came from, what you've done. Everybody has one. It may not be right now, but it will be 10 years from now. And it will continue because your story doesn't end until Jesus comes back. Your story will not end until you're in the grave, right? So everybody has a story of how that scar got there. Whether that's falling off a tree, tripping on the sidewalk, or whatever the case might be, there is some story of how it got there. The story is either good or bad. Some people might make up the story to make it sound good. You'd be like, you could have easily fallen off a tree. Say I fell off a tree. I'm not gonna go tell my friends that I fell off a tree. You know how bad that looks? Just laugh dude, what? So I might be like, dude, man, I was just brawling with some boys and punched it, and I just punched this dude and he gave it right back to me, and man, I was just building it up. Well, okay, but in reality I fell in a tree. So, but I'm not gonna tell that story. No. But most of the time, people's stories, people's scars are not good. Most of people's stories, there's somewhere in there, I was a drug addict. I was sexually abused. I was abandoned. I was a part of a family that was just split. My parents are divorced. Some of you in here have those kind of stories. I relate to every single one of those stories because every one of those things have happened to me. But I know in here in this room that everybody, I've talked to the majority of you, and I know the majority of you in this room, and I know every single one of you have some kind of story that you can relate to that. Whether it's hatred, whether it's jealousy, whether it's being self-hate, whether it's not thinking you're good enough, whether it's I'm not pretty enough, whether it's I was sexually abused, or my parents are divorced. Everybody has some sort of story in there. And there's 3 points that I'm going to talk about before we end about those. Number 1, your story, your scar, they show the healing power of the Lord. When we get hurt, the body is such a powerful thing because it heals itself, right? Who's ever thought about the fact that it just heals? You get hurt and it heals. I have a tattoo right here, and when I first got it, it was bleeding, it was red, it was sore, it was disgusting, right? But the end product, it's nice, right? It looks good. There's no more blood, there's no more suffering, right? Because this one hurt. It might seem easy, but dude, has a heavy hand. And I think he was trying to kill me, but the Floridians, man, I swear. But he was, he was stabbing me. He was repeatedly stabbing me with a needle, and he was just going at it. And at the time, it was just bloody, and there was nothing there. But then you give it 2-3 weeks, and it turns into this beautiful thing, right? The finished product. And maybe it's not finished, but it's finished enough to where we can show it off and be like, man, this looks good. Like, where people will be like, man, look at your tattoo. Like, that looks good. Because in reality, they didn't see the beginning process, because they wouldn't have been like, hey man, that looks good at the time I was getting it, right? They wouldn't have been like, dude, that looks disgusting. Like, some people may have even passed out because blood just can't be around blood. So, but in reality, they're gonna look at it and be like, man, that looks disgusting. But then if they see it too, they only see the finished product. They don't see, for the majority, unless you have good friends, majority of you are not going to see the finished product. Majority of you didn't see this. Actually, all of you didn't see this until after I had it done, right? So scars, they show the healing power of the Lord. It automatically, our body, when it heals, it automatically goes to work. As soon as we scrape something, it automatically does the work. Hold on, give me 1 second. Physically, it goes to work and heals, right? Emotionally, our scars, most of them don't get fixed right away. Emotionally. You walk in your house and your parents are fighting and bickering and doing this and that and whatever. You see your dad yelling at your mom and screaming, and then all of a sudden your mom's like, I want a divorce. And she's like, get out of my house. As you're walking home from school and you walk in and you see your dad and you're like, Dad, where are you going? She's like, your mom just kicked me out. I'm leaving. Right then and there. You can't fix anything, because emotionally it's all bottled up, because your dad literally just walked out of the door and said, I'm not coming back. Your mom just kicked me out. And emotionally, our scars do not get fixed right away. They don't. And that's when we're like, God, for the majority of us, when we emotionally get hurt and wounded, we immediately like, God, why'd you have to do this to me? Why me? Why me? When in reality, what we need to do is be like, God, I need you. Like, I don't know why my parents walked out on me. I don't know why this is happening. I don't know why my dad's walking out, but I just need you right now. We need to stop blaming God and being like, God, why'd you do this? And instead be like, God, I need help. I need to know what's next, right? And so they show the healing power of the Lord. So when we get physically hurt, if we get emotionally hurt, the first thing, instead of blaming God, we need to ask God for help. Because when we physically get hurt, right, if we bust our head, the majority of us, not me obviously, are gonna be like, hey mom, I need help, right? Like when we're babies, when a baby gets hurt, it automatically screams, and that scream is a cry for help. So when we emotionally get hurt, what we need to do, instead of being like, God, why me? Why this? Why that? We need like, God, I need you. God, what's next? I need you. I need help. Right? That's what we need to do. The second is scars. They keep us from doing the same thing over and over again. So when I got hurt in my eye, I know for a fact, do not go up against someone bigger than you. Just don't do that. It's not good. It never ends well. People might say it doesn't end well. Don't do it. And so I know not to do it again. I look at this scar, I look in the mirror and I see it on my eye and I'm like, man, not gonna do that again. I might get another scar, but it's probably not gonna be from the same thing. Might be something different. Who knows? But scars, they keep us from doing things twice, for the most part. Emotionally, scars, they should keep you from doing the same thing twice. So even though it might not be your fault, you can look at it like if you saw your dad walk out on you. And I'm using divorce because unfortunately, it's a very popular thing around here. But when someone, if your mom or dad walks out, obviously you can't undo that, and for the majority of you, you guys can't fix that problem. But what you can do is when you grow up and when you have a family, you can be like, man, I'm gonna do everything in my power not to walk out. You know, my significant other, I'm gonna do everything in my power to keep her happy, to make sure that I will not, you know, that she does not leave me. She will not leave my side, like she will be protected, you know. And so in that sense, you're not gonna do it twice. So meaning what you saw your dad do, you're not gonna do it. You know, if you got abused, like I did, I got highly abused. You know, I got so abused that I shouldn't even be standing in front of you right now. And for that, I'm so blessed and thankful to be here. But because I was so abused and so wounded and hurt, when I grow up and when I have a family, I'm gonna do everything in my power to not be the abuser. Even though I was abused and I could use the excuse over and over again and be like, man, I was abused and I was hurt, you know, so I'm gonna do the same thing to you. I'm not gonna do that. Because God, he died on the cross and said, you know, I did this for you. And because he did that for you and for me, I can say, I won't do this to you. And so emotionally and physically, they remind us from doing the same thing over and over again. Don't do it again. Number 3 is they bring us closer to Jesus. Now physically, you might not, this might not relate to being closer to Jesus. Like, I'm not gonna look at my scar and be like, man, Jesus, I feel so close to you right now. He's, you know, I'm not gonna do that. But this one hit so hard with me emotionally because, you know, I look at the scars and you know, I have physical problems. Like, I'm very sensitive to a lot of things. Like, even when, like, if you see me and you ever just hug you, it's because, you know, that's part of what was missing in my life, is that I love hugs and I love the physical connection, because I don't have that. And so, like, my whole body, I'm super sensitive to the slightest little things because of how abused and badly beaten I was when I was a kid. And so emotionally, our scars, they're gonna bring us to Jesus. So when I see the hurt and the wound, you know, for the girls out there, you know, that say they aren't loved, you know, or they aren't pretty enough, or they have scars, physical knife wounds on their arms, and they're shedding. When I see that, I cry out to them. I feel with them. Like, I walked into Target, I don't know, I spoke over the summer at a camp, and I was telling them this, and over the summer I saw this girl, and it saddened me, and I really feel with girls because I have 16 sisters, and I relate strongly to them. But I was walking in Target, I think it was, and it was a girl, probably, you know, how old's an 8th grader nowadays? Like 13, 14. So yeah, so she was about that age. And the first thing I noticed, you know, she had long sleeves on. And it's the summer, so I was like, okay, that's a little weird. And she had long sleeves on. And she was walking, and then obviously I guess she got cold and she rolled her sleeves up. That's when I noticed every single part of her arm was in cuts, slashes on her arm. And my first thought was, like, I cried. Like, I literally physically cried. And I don't cry in public, but it just made me cry. Because I just thought, she doesn't know how precious and loved that she is by the person who made. She doesn't know how beautifully created that she was made by Jesus. And it brought me to tears, but it also brought me to Jesus. Because I thought about my situation, and I thought about what I've gone through, and I could make every single excuse in here and be like, man, I'm gonna treat you that way, I'm gonna treat you that way. But instead, it always brings me to Jesus, because I thought about what Jesus did. Like Greg said, you know, and I don't know if you want to play that song again, but to me, I thought of Jesus and what he did. He died on the cross, and he said, I did this for you. The holes in his hand and the nails in his feet, he said, I'm doing this for you because I don't want you to have to go through this. I don't want you to have to go through the trials and the suffering. And then there's a verse in one of my favorite verses, Isaiah 53. It's great. I'll read the whole verse. It just takes a moment. It says, he was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and familiar with suffering. Like one from whom men hide their faces, he was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he took up our infirmities and carried our sorrows. Yet we consider him stricken by God, smitten by him, and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him. And my favorite part. And by his wounds we are healed. So whatever you're going through, whatever, I don't know what you're going through. I don't know what's been happening in your life. I don't know what's happening, but I know this. That no matter what it is that you're going through, no matter how hard life gets, and how hard it tries to knock you down, and how hard Satan says, I don't want you to succeed, and I don't want you to be the person that God created you to be, I want you right now to shut that down. Because no matter what you're going through, no matter if I was thrown in a dumpster, no matter if, my parents abandoned me, I can look to the cross and say, Jesus, I need you.
Amen.
I want you. All those wounds that I have, all the trials that I have, I need you to take them, and I need you to heal me. I can look to the cross and say, because you did that, Jesus, I don't have to go through this anymore. I don't have to be like my dad. I don't have to be like my mom. Because of you, I can grow up and be a better man than any of them.
Amen.
I can be the best person I can be that you made me, because you created me. And you created me so beautifully. And you made my life. And I want you, and I need you. So today I'm asking you, man, I don't know what you're going through, but talk to somebody. Get help. You have these people around you, your small groups. They'll help you. They'll walk with you. They're there for you. Your leaders, they're there for you. You have what I didn't have when I was a little kid. It was all me. But the one thing that we all have and we all share is Jesus Christ. And that's all we need. Dear God, we love you. We thank you. I'm just asking you right now to heal me, to set me free. I need you to help me not make these scars an excuse for me to be somebody that I'm not. I need you to help me not make any more excuses. To help me look to the cross and say, you are enough. You're what I need. And to help me believe and realize that by your wounds, I am healed. We thank you and we love you. In Jesus' name, amen.